Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we are reviewing Everton versus West Ham. It resulted in a 3-1 defeat. It really feels as if wins are not a part of the Everton script as of currently. We were up 1-0. I believe this is one of the very few times, if not the first time, we have lost from a winning position under Sean Dyche. There have been a number of occasions where we've squandered the 3 points and come away with one. But today we're fully empty-handed, and it really feels like, yet again, plenty of opportunities, but could not hit a barn door. And, things just simply, as I said, are not in the script to go Everton's way. So we're going to go into the review and dissect what the bloody hell happened. So admittedly, I only watched the mini match, which is about 25 to 30 minutes of this game. But I saw all I needed to see in 30 minutes in terms of the goals that we conceded. Look, it's good to see a coaching adjustment in the sense that Beto started. I am of the belief that if you play DCL more, eventually something is going to click and it'll turn around. But I do understand, if you compare minutes to goals, Beto has got a far better ratio in that sense. So you got to have him on the pitch. He was pretty good in terms of getting into the right spots. He had quite a number of shots on goal. The physicality was obviously something with him you always have to deal with as a defense. And he really troubled and was able to get in behind on occasion, which is really positive. But the penalty, my goodness. This guy consistently, when he's shooting from open play, consistently leathers the shit out of that football. Now, he was obviously given the kick from the penalty spot. In my eyes, he should have absolutely leathered the crap out of it. It wouldn't have mattered which side it was on if the keeper went to the same side. Beto has got a ridiculously powerful sort of shot on him. And I think that probably could have played into our hands. But, obviously the penalty, he just tries to place it rather than actually put power into it. And of course, the one time we actually start him and have DCL seated, that's the one time you probably wanted DCL on the pitch because of his pretty flawless penalty record. That was our first penalty of the season. But for us to have that penalty, first and foremost, and a decision to actually go our way, and then to miss it, you sort of could see on the horizon the potential for this game to absolutely fall flat. And then all of a sudden, the hope was instilled that we would actually win this game. You go up a goal, and with half an hour to go, you're probably putting us in pole position, especially given the history of, taking leads and very rarely squandering them fully and entirely. But then the goal, the first one that we conceded, look, I think you could sort of see with a couple of corners that they took earlier on in the game, that sort of foreshadowed that there was going to be definitely shakiness in terms of defending corners. And Ben Godfrey, I don't know if this is something that Dyche looks to slightly adjust in the future, but for Ben Godfrey, who is a 6'1" centre-back, yes, he's playing as a fullback, but because he's playing centrally, he's occupying that space where centre backs are going to lie. And centre backs historically are taller than 6 foot. Or in the modern Premier League, they're taller than 6 foot. So look, every single time, the man taking the set piece is good enough to just get it in that little space between Godfrey's head and then obviously the head of the man he's actually trying to find. In this case, it was Zuma. If you can hit that space, you're going to get a goal every time, or you're going to have the opportunity to score every time because Godfrey never, ever gets lift. He's always tracking backwards, it seems, and, they just drop it into that space every single time, and oppositions feast on it. And in the first half, it nearly happened. There was one of their centre halves that wasn't named Zuma, I forgot his name, that, had another look as well. More so because every Everton defender in the box was very much inactive, I think is the correct word to say. just didn't seem very proactive and reactive to where the ball was landing, which was a huge letdown. Lucky to not concede there, but it didn't really matter. So I don't know if there's an adjustment to send Godfrey further away from that drop zone right in front of the goal, where obviously the man getting his head to it on the offensive side can actually pick and choose which corner he wants to take it in, or send it towards. Instead, obviously, we run that risk, and we saw the result. I mean, it was perfectly placed in the top right, and James Garner wasn't good enough or wasn't tall enough to actually deflect it clear. And that's, the fine margins right there. I mean, on the other side, we had one from point blank range off a corner, and Thomas Soucek is on the goal line purely because we're trying to redirect and not pummel it in. I think that's consistently the word we've been using week after week. You need to keep things simple and dumb things down with a team that isn't necessarily the most skilled. The more you complicate things, the more you expose the flaw in our play in terms of when we're in possession. You saw with the goal that we scored, it was pretty simple. Just bring the ball forward. Space opened up. We capitalized off a turnover, and the cross was exquisite and a simple header. That is really dumbing down football to the bare basics, but you saw the benefits when you get those simple fundamentals right. There was another one where Dwight McNeil, on the goal line, essentially, all he needed to do was leather it, and it's a goal, but instead he didn't really connect fully with it, and he's just hit it right at Areola, who, by the way, was on crack. His performance today was ridiculous. Pretty typical, again, when we talk about how the wins are not in the Everton script. Goalkeepers decide to have absolute worldies against us, and Areola made a number of good saves that kept West Ham, in a position to potentially get the game swinging back their way, which, of course, we saw in the dying stages. Thomas Soucek has done this before at that venue a couple of seasons ago. I think it was the COVID season where it was 0-0 in stoppage time, just managed to somehow, get one in the back of the net. And I think a couple of years back when that happened, it was outside the box. This one was inside the box, but it might as well have been outside the box. It was just a ridiculous strike. The only real pitfall for me is the fact that we didn't close out nearly aggressively enough. To get it to Soucek, the cross actually had to be overhit, and, Kudus was able to do just that because he didn't have a great game by his standards. That's the fine margins yet again. West Ham are turning mistakes into ridiculous moments of brilliance, like we saw. And Soucek only had a very small window to get the shot off and a little, slither of daylight, if you will. And he's managed to, inside out it into the right-hand side of the goal, to the right of Pickford, and he never stood a chance. So it consistently seems like we get undone by brilliance. West Ham could lack brilliance all game long, but because we're not clinical up one end and can't leather the ball into the back of the net from 5 yards away, because we can't do that, it's almost like the spirits are saying, well, you've had your opportunity, and we're going to punish you for well and truly not taking it. So, yeah, it's just consistently we're put to the sword, and, oppositions would be fools to not capitalize on all these chances we continuously give. The window of opportunity, the door remains ajar, always, with this Everton team. You can never fully count on them putting an opposition to bed, and as we saw today, that was the result. I don't really feed into the third goal too much. A lot of people are saying to James Garner, well, he was seriously the guilty party. He was, but primarily because he could not clear the first man on corners. It would help if we weren't 2-1 down to start with in the 90th minute, the 94th, 95th minute. We're sort of clutching at loose straws here. I don't think, a corner was really going to do it in that late stage of the game. You never know, but we shouldn't have shipped off 2 goals to start with. That's really my Achilles heel with regards to this game today. For some reason, I'm not as mad as a lot of others would be. I'm very cut that we've, given up a lead. But when you look at the goals we've conceded, very simple fixes, and yet we just continue to not fix them. And it's really as simple as that. So if Areola wasn't having as good a game, potentially you win. If you could simply leather a football on multiple occasions, whether that's Doucouré, McNeil, Beto on the penalty, then maybe we have 3 or 4 past him. But obviously the game's made from fine margins, and we continue to be on the wrong side of it. And the script has it out for us. I think even with penalties going in our favor, we still can't fucking score a goal. So I don't really know what the solution is, apart from this all being down to the players and needing to see. Well, we need to see that improvement. The fan base need to see it just to get a bit of a lift. This fan base has forgotten what it's like to win. It has been 3 full months or 2 full months. We're entering a 3rd month of the year now, calendar year, without a victory. And there's been numerous times we've dropped points. We've probably we have dropped 4 or 5 points, 5 points in the last 2 games, really. What we got back from the point deduction, we've essentially lost with these games that we continue to drop. And it doesn't get easy. The schedule lessens in difficulty at the very end of the season, but before then we've got this 4 to 5 game run, which is going to be incredibly tough. There's no opponent in that run of games that is just going to let you walk all over them. It's really that simple, and we can't afford these lapses. So minor adjustments for me. I think Beto starting is sort of the way to go. Maybe playing DCL in a front 2, just to see if DCL having a little bit of support alongside him, as opposed to, Doucouré sort of working off him. Maybe that different dynamic could potentially open things up for DCL and take some of the attention away from him. And that's potentially why he's been really struggling for goals, because really he's felt suffocated. Potentially Ben Godfrey being situated in a less vulnerable position, or making the entire team less open to vulnerability, purely by where Godfrey is sitting. Because as I said, if you put the ball in there, and you've got a 6-foot centre back trying to contend with a 6'3" centre back, if you've got it high enough where, the 6'3" defender can meet it with pace, it's going to be very difficult to stop. So maybe those are a couple of adjustments. Maybe the wingers need to sort of get a little bit of a shake up, McNeil or Harrison. I mean, McNeil had a number of shots today. Lots of those shots were outside the box, so probably lower percentage. Yeah, we just need a win. I don't know where it's going to come from, but, there is a fair bit of resolve this team has shown in previous games much earlier in the season. So I think Dyche is probably going to be very much on top of them, hold them accountable, let them know what they've done wrong, and work hard at it on the training ground in order to rectify the issue. We'll be back for another Everton review when the Everton game concludes the day after. But thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you are new. We'll be back for that Everton fixture, as I've said, the next one. Until then, stay safe. We'll chat to you soon. And bye for now.